Hi everyone.
Hi,
This is Hope 4G and
Leah Bassoff.
we're going to be talking to you today about the eighth grade, what's called Community Project. It's a year-long project that is compulsory for our eighth grade students in the MYP. And Leah is going to take you through her slideshow presentation in the comfort of your own home so that you can get all the information. And we hope that this is very informative for you. Leah is our community service coordinator, and she's going to be overseeing these projects. All of us as MYP teachers are also going to be advisors to your students, and they already have a lot of information about this. We want to make sure you're informed as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Leah and have her present to you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So, just so you know, your students have already been assigned a supervisor, an advisor who will be working with them all year on their projects. And this year, we've allowed the students to work in groups for the first time, small groups, so they can work with one or two partners if they want to, or work individually. So, we're going to leave that up to your students. So, right now, they should be in their exploratory phase of figuring out what topic they want to do, who they want to work with, if anyone, and creating their first meeting with their advisor. So this really should be a project that your student is passionate about and excited about. They'll be working with this particular community service project all year long. So we want them to just absolutely love what they're working on. So a few guiding questions I give to the students are, what do I want to achieve through my project? What do I want others to understand through my work? And what impact do I want my project to have? We really want to encourage the students to move beyond what I call the canned food drive, which is just to basically ask people for donations or money. A lot of students are interested in doing volunteer service. Maybe they want to volunteer at an organization. But this is certainly not the only model for a community service project. First of all, I found that for students this age, it's hard for them to find opportunities where they can actually go and volunteer. A lot of volunteer organizations want students who are a little bit older just for legal reasons. So they may or may not struggle finding a volunteer organization. If they do decide to volunteer somewhere, they need to do something more than just showing up and volunteering. So again, the community service project really involves taking their volunteer work a step further and figuring out what do I want to accomplish? What do I want people to know about? And they certainly don't need to do volunteer service. They can do research projects, they can start a campaign, they can try to change people's mindsets. So there are many options for them rather than just showing up every week and volunteering somewhere. So there are four components of the community service project. One is their actual service learning action. And again, this can consist of direct service, which would be like the volunteer work, but it can also be indirect service, it can be advocacy, or it can be research. And they're going to write a process journal. It will look very similar to the type of journals they've been keeping in their design classes, where they're showing their project from beginning to end and keeping track of all the work that they've put in. Their end product might not be what they expected it to be. And maybe ultimately in the end, they'll look at what they came up with and feel like it wasn't a success. They weren't able to change a law or pass a bill. But as long as they've taken steps towards that goal and shown all their work, just like they'd show all their work for a math problem, they'll do very well, because really the project is less about the end result and more about their process and their learning experience. They will do a written reflection that will be handed in, and then they will do a presentation at the end, and all of you will be invited to a special presentation night at the end of the school year. So, question, does my student need to discover a cure for cancer? No, we realize they are only in middle school. Can my student discover a cure for cancer? Yes, go for it. We just want to remind everyone that service action doesn't mean that your student has to build a bridge or create a new vaccine or discover a cure for cancer. They can simply do enough research or advocacy work to change someone's mindset or change the way someone looks at something. We know that all of your students may have very ambitious, Nobel Prize worthy projects in mind, but we also realize the limitations of being only in 8th grade. And we certainly have reasonable expectations of what they can or can't accomplish. So the question I usually get from parents is, how much should I be helping my learner? And the answer is very minimally. This is really their project. It's their chance to work on time management. It's their chance to figure things out. Of course, being that they don't drive yet, you may need to give them rides depending on where they're going. You can certainly be a sounding board for their ideas, but ultimately the students should be doing all of the legwork by themselves. And all the advisors are here to help them with their ideas and shaping those ideas as well. So the students have all received a copy of the timeline. This is the one piece of paper that I've advised them to maybe stick up on their fridge, or maybe you could do it as well. So if you look at the timeline for September, this is really just an investigative time period where they are meeting with their supervisor for the first time, figuring out the goal for their project, doing some initial research to make sure their topic will work. They will fill out an academic honesty form as well. And all the students know that by the end of September, they need to have met with their supervisor at least one time. So because this is a year-long project, sometimes the student will try something, get a little ways into it, and realize that that project just isn't going to work or isn't going to be feasible. And that's no problem. We've allowed enough time for students to make mistakes, change tracks, and still not get penalized in a sense. They'll still have plenty of time if they decide to do something new early on. So September is their exploratory period. October through November is when they should really be honing in on a feasible idea. And during this time, they're really going to start developing their proposal for action, beginning their research, and the whole time they should be recording all the steps they're taking in their process journals. By the end of November, they should have met with their supervisor for a second time. December through March is when things get more serious. This is when they're really starting to carry out their action plan. They're still recording everything they do as they go along. And by the end of March, they're meeting with their supervisor for the third time. So they should be in the full throes of their project during this time period. And then April through May comes time to really start writing up their project, reflecting on their project, looking at the actions they took compared with their original goal. They're going to be asked to look at an approaches to learning and pick one approach to learning that they used. They're going to talk about some of the challenges they faced along the way and some of the successes they had. And they will include a bibliography as well to cite all their sources if they did research. And by the end of May, they're going to meet with a supervisor for the fourth time. So this is where they're really writing up their projects. And then comes the time to celebrate. So sometime in May, we'll have a community service project showcase. We'll get that date to you as soon as we know it. But that's when your son or daughter gets to give their TED Talk or their amazing revelations. And we always tell the students that their quote-unquote failures are just as important as their successes. So one of the things they're really going to address in their presentation is challenges they had along the way, and we would expect there to be challenges. That's really part of the process. So we always teach the students that failure is an option. We want them to try to tackle ambitious projects. We want them to learn how hard something is. Let them try to get a bill passed. They'll realize how tricky it is for anyone to do that, but they're going to learn so much along the way. So we do not grade them based on whether they quote unquote fail or succeed at the end. It's really how much work they put in, how reflective they are, and how much they learn in the process. And we have new guiding principles that we've adopted as a school that we'll really stress throughout this project as well, which is I will positively contribute to my community. I will be principled and open-minded. I will respect myself and treat others with dignity. So these should be the principles that really guide the students' projects, especially as they're thinking of making the world a better place than what they found originally. Please, if you have any questions at all, email me, and we're so excited to be working with your students this year.
All right, thank you so much for watching this, and do keep in touch with us. Please ask your children about the project. It's a great dinner table conversation to sort of help them brainstorm, and we look forward to seeing what they come up with. Thanks again.